welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something, well, pretty radical. It's a whole new framework for solving some of our biggest problems, not from the top down, but from the ground up. This is the vision for what's called an illuminated commons. So let's just jump right in with a pretty wild question, right? What if the Illuminati, yeah, that Illuminati, could actually solve the world's problems? I know, it sounds out there, but stick with me. It's a provocative thought, and it's actually central to the whole proposal we're exploring today. You see, this whole concept starts by completely flipping the script on the Illuminati myth. So instead of some secret cabal pulling all the strings in the shadows, this proposal is to reclaim the term for its total opposite, a transparent grassroots network. We're talking, forget elitist control, think open source collaboration. The whole goal here is to replace the idea of conspiracy with mutual aid and empowerment.
Okay, so our first section is all about this idea, reclaiming the Illuminati. How do you transform it from the symbol of a secret society into, a blueprint for an open source movement?
A little bit of history actually helps here. The original Bavarian Illuminati, founded way back in 1776, was actually an Enlightenment-era group. Their goal? To oppose superstition and the abuse of state power. Now, they were suppressed pretty quickly, but the myth? Oh, the myth lived on. So the proposal we're looking at today is to reappropriate that name for a modern, totally transparent network that's built on mutual aid.
But to really get why a network like this is even being proposed, we've got to understand the core problem it's trying to solve. And that problem is something called the myth of scarcity.
The central argument here is that this idea of there's just not enough to go around isn't some natural fact of life. It's a story. It's a narrative that gets used to justify policies that concentrate wealth and leave a lot of people feeling really insecure, all while a tiny few enjoy this incredible abundance.
And the data? The data backs this up in a pretty shocking way. I mean, just look at the US between 1950 and 2000. The economy, the GDP, grew by a staggering 3,200%. And the population, it only grew by 86%. The takeaway here is crystal clear. We've created more than enough wealth. The problem has never been about making enough stuff. It's always been about how we distribute it.
And this brings us right to the key concept, artificial scarcity. So what is it? It's that state where there are actually plenty of resources to go around, but they're made to seem scarce. And this happens through specific policy choices and a system that's way more focused on profit than on making sure everyone has access to what they need. So this isn't about natural limits, right? It's about systemic failures.
So if the problem is artificial, what are the real solutions? Well, this next section is all about that. We're going to look at how communities are already pushing back and creating their own abundance right now, from the ground up. Let's take community gardens, for example. I know they might seem simple, but just look at the incredible ripple effects. They build social trust, which can actually reduce crime. They provide healthy food in areas that are often called food deserts. They create local economic opportunities and even have a positive environmental impact. It's a perfect example of one single local project creating all these different benefits at the same time. And it's not just about gardens. Check out these evidence-based results from community violence intervention programs. You've got models like Advance Peace and Cure Violence. These are led by community members who have lived experience with this stuff. And look at the results. They've achieved massive reductions in shootings and homicides. We're talking way more effective than a lot of the traditional top-down approaches we usually see. This same kind of grassroots logic can be applied to our waste. Instead of the usual one-way path to a landfill, you have this circular model. It uses technology like gasification to turn all that municipal waste into a valuable resource, basically a feedstock for new plastics and chemicals. It literally transforms a huge liability into an asset. Okay, so we've got all these powerful local solutions, but how do you connect them all? How do you scale them up? Well, that's where our next section comes in, the Guild and the Code. It's an organizing model for a new generation. Now, the model being proposed here is, well, it's pretty wild. It actually draws its inspiration directly from the guild structures in online video games like Final Fantasy XIV.
But just think about it for a second. You have shared knowledge, peer mentorship. small groups taking on quests, like say starting a community garden, and you build your reputation through your contributions. It's a blueprint for collaboration that literally millions of people already understand and use every single day.
And when you put this guild model right next to a traditional program like Job Corps, the differences are, well, they're stark. Instead of being top-down and standardized, it's peer-to-peer and adaptive. It focuses less on just job placement and more on building real skills, civic engagement, and even community enterprises. And because it's built to scale digitally, it could be way, way more cost-effective.
The backbone of this whole network is what you could call the digital guild hall, and it's built entirely on free and open source software. Tools like Nextcloud for sharing files securely, or OpenProject for managing tasks. These are powerful, they're secure, and they're accessible to absolutely everyone. This completely lowers the financial barrier to entry and lets any group, anywhere, organize effectively.
So, what's the end goal of all this? I mean, these practical tools and local projects, they're not just isolated fixes. They're meant to be building blocks for a much larger, more philosophical vision, the creation of a universal community.
So the ultimate goal is what the source material calls a universal community. And what that means is a society where all people participate as equals in our collective life. It's built on principles of inclusivity, shared responsibility for our world, and moving past all those artificial divisions like race, class, and nation.
So ultimately, this isn't about some small secret group at all. The vision is of an ever-growing, open, and benevolent circle. One where everyone is invited to help illuminate the way forward, together. And all of this really leaves us with one final, powerful question. If communities already have the examples, the models, and the tools to create abundance from the ground up, what's truly stopping us from building it? That's the idea this explainer leaves us with. Thanks for tuning in.
You ever look at the news, right? The headlines, it's always resource scarcity, or you see the struggle with homelessness right there on the street, these cycles of violence.
Yeah.
And God, the mountains of waste. Do you just feel completely overwhelmed?
Totally. It feels intractable sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And the usual fix is, the top-down stuff. It often feels so slow, or like it doesn't even really fix the core problem. Sometimes maybe even makes it worse. It's easy to just feel stuck.
Stuck in a system that, just isn't delivering.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because what if there's another way? What if, instead of just patching things up, we could build like new pathways, bypasses essentially, around the root causes of these problems that people face every day?
Bypasses, I like that framing.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. There's this really diverse community thinkers, activists, exploring some genuinely novel ways to transform society. And one core idea is something they call guild structuring.
Guild structuring.
Yeah, think of it like old school guilds, but also, and this is the surprising part, drawing inspiration from how things work in some online games, like MMORPGs.
Okay, video games. How does that connect?
Right. But the idea is that this flexible, peer-led model lets people with shared goals work together, specialize, share resources, and use that structure to implement grassroots solutions that already work, but scale them up to create those bypasses around the broken parts of the system.
So taking what works on the ground and giving it a structure to grow, essentially.
And the insights we're drawing on today come from years of discussion within this community, thinkers, activists, just everyday people with vision.
Yeah.
They've basically been mapping out solutions that go way beyond typical hierarchies or government programs.
Sounds ambitious.
It is. So our mission today is to explore how these community-driven models offer a real, practical roadmap, not just ideas, but tangible transformation towards what they call collective flourishing. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll see these old problems in a fresh light.
What's fascinating here, I think, is the fundamental shift in perspective these sources highlight. It's really moving away from just waiting for top-down fixes, from government or big institutions.
Right, looking elsewhere.
Exactly. It's about exploring these open source, community-driven ways of organizing. And a key insight right from the start, something that really sets the stage, is this. Many of the huge issues we face, they argue, aren't because there's inherently not enough stuff.
Not enough food, not enough housing.
Yeah.
That's the usual story.
Right. But this community argues it's more often a systemic failure of distribution, not production.
Ah, okay. Distribution. That's a critical difference.
It really is. It means the problem isn't necessarily a fundamental lack of resources, but a massive flaw in how we get those resources to the people who need them.
So the pipes are clogged, essentially.
Or deliberately blocked, perhaps. And if that's the core issue, distribution, then this idea of guild structures becomes really powerful. Mm-hmm. It's both a metaphor, but also a practical framework.
A framework for what, specifically?
For integrating and scaling up all these different benevolent network solutions. All those amazing grassroots initiatives already happening, community gardens, housing projects, you name it, linking them together.
So they become more than just isolated projects.
Exactly. Making them into a cohesive, impactful movement that can genuinely bypass the old limitations and carve out entirely new pathways for well-being.
That idea, the systemic failure of distribution, it really hits home. But, for a lot of people listening, the idea of artificial scarcity might sound, well, a bit out there, idealistic maybe.
When they see real struggles every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do these sources bridge that gap between the abundance you're talking about and the scarcity people actually feel? Is the scarcity we hear about food, housing, is it really natural? Or is it, like these sources say, a story?
That's spot on. And it brings us to the first major insight from this deep dive, what the sources call the myth of false scarcity and the political economy of abundance.
Okay, the myth of false scarcity.
Yeah. And when you dig into the actual sociological and economic analyses they present, it just completely flips the script on that conventional wisdom, the idea that there just isn't enough to go around.
It challenges that bedrock assumption.
Absolutely. Instead, researchers and thinkers in this community argue that scarcity is, more often than not, artificially created or maintained. It's the social systems themselves, the way we distribute resources inequitably, that cause the scarcity.
So it's not a law of nature, it's a result of our system.
Precisely. And this isn't just theory. The empirical evidence is pretty overwhelming. On a per capita basis, globally, we have never had more food and material resources available than right now. Ever.
More than ever before.
Yet, despite that abundance, hunger and deprivation persist. Shockingly so. That disconnect isn't a sign of production limits hitting a wall. It's a flashing red light, signaling a systemic failure of distribution.
A failure to get what we have to where it's needed.
Right. And the really crucial insight here isn't just that the resources exist, but that the story of scarcity, the narrative, is an incredibly powerful political tool.
How so?
It's used, often intentionally, to justify inequality, to justify why some have so much and others so little, to maintain specific power structures. Once you see that, the question shifts, doesn't it? From is there enough to who controls access and why?
Right, who gets to decide?
Exactly. And this echoes the crucial insight from economist Amartya Sen, which our sources build upon. He argued, and studies confirm, that it's access, not the sheer physical supply of stuff, that's the key determinant of well-being.
Access, access, access.
Think about it. The roots of hunger, homelessness. They're not found in nature's limits. They're found in poverty, in deep-seated inequality, and in specific policy choices that consistently prioritize profits and, frankly, class privilege over basic needs.
So the scarcity narrative is convenient.
Extremely convenient. For those in power, it justifies austerity measures, privatizing public services, keeping wages low. It effectively hides the real issue. A political economy that's structured to build abundance for some while creating precarity and struggle for many others. It's a manufactured crisis.
Designed to keep the current system running.
Precisely. Which leads directly into this concept the sources call artificial scarcity and manufactured crisis. It points to this stunning paradox in modern economies.
A paradox.
Yeah, check this out. Between 1950 and 2000, U.S. GDP, the total value of everything produced went up by over 3,200%. Massive increase.
Wow.
But during that same time, the population only grew by about 86%.
So vastly more wealth per person, theoretically.
Theoretically. But what do we see today in the U.S.? This bizarre situation where people are overworked and underemployed. You're either working crazy hours for not enough pay, or you can't find enough work at all.
Yeah, that disconnect is real.
And meanwhile, you have 40 million Americans facing food insecurity, even while we waste unbelievable amounts of food every single year. That paradox, the sources argue, just lays bare the artificial nature of the scarcity. Goods are produced primarily for markets for profit, not for universal access and well-being.
Profit over people, essentially.
That's the dynamic, and what's really revealing, maybe even disturbing, is what happens when those profits are threatened.
What do you mean?
The data shows that when industries have a surplus, too much food, too many empty houses that could drive prices down, they often prefer to destroy it.
Destroy it, like throw food away.
Literally. Throw away food, let housing sit vacant, rather than undermine their pricing structure or, God forbid, redistribute those goods to people who desperately need them.
That's hard to hear.
It is. And this profit-first dynamic isn't just domestic, it plays out globally, too. Take food aid programs, for instance.
It seemed like a good thing, right? Helping people.
On the surface, yes, but often they function more as economic levers. You have heavily subsidized crops, commodity surpluses from the global north,
Okay.
being essentially dumped onto markets in the global south.
Oh, dumped? What does that do?
It tragically undercuts local farmers. They can't compete with heavily subsidized imports. It reinforces economic dependency, actively hinders sustainable local development. It creates this vicious cycle of poverty and perceived scarcity.
So the aid can actually harm local production. Wow.
It often does. And beyond that, the sources meticulously detail specific political interventions that lock in these barriers for marginalized groups. Things like historical redlining,
Denying services based on race, yeah?
restrictive zoning laws that make affordable housing impossible to build in many areas, deliberate exclusion from welfare programs, even things like consent decrees, which might aim for reform but can sometimes end up cementing power structures that limit access.
These aren't accidents then.
The argument is no. They're often deliberate policy choices that create and maintain artificial limits. And understanding this, really digging into artificial scarcity, is so crucial. It reframes the whole problem.
How so?
It shows the core issue isn't a lack of stuff, but a fundamental flaw in distribution and access. And that understanding, that reframing, that's what opens the door. It shows us where the potential for innovative, bottom-up solutions lies, where we can build those direct bypasses around these manufactured crises.
Okay, so if scarcity is largely an illusion built by the system, then the way forward isn't just tweaking that system. It's about unlocking the abundance that's already here.
Exactly. Reclaiming it.
And our sources are packed with examples of communities doing just that, bypassing the old ways entirely. They talk a lot about empowerment philanthropy and peer-driven solutions.
Right, because those have consistently proven more effective.
Way more effective, they argue, than the big top-down, often paternalistic interventions. This is about communities taking back control. So let's look at some of these grassroots bypasses in action.
Absolutely. A really potent example is the community garden movement.
Okay, community gardens. Seems simple enough.
It seems simple, but it becomes this incredibly powerful, multifaceted tool. It's a direct bypass for so many of the scarcity issues we just talked about. Growing food together in a shared space. It's profound.
It has deep roots, right?
Oh, absolutely. Collective farming goes way back. But it saw modern resurgences, like with the victory gardens during wartime, or as part of urban renewal when economies tanked. And today, it's exploded. Over 18,000 community garden sites in North America alone.
Wow, 18,000.
Yeah, turning empty lots, rooftops, forgotten corners into these vibrant hubs of nourishment and connection.
So how do they create these bypasses specifically?
Multiple ways. First, social cohesion. These gardens become these naturally inclusive spaces. People from all different backgrounds come together, interact, barriers break down, local leaders emerge organically. It's a powerful bypass around community fragmentation and isolation.
Building connections through shared work.
Yeah, exactly. Second, health and nutrition. Obvious? Maybe, but crucial. Participants get direct access to fresh, often pesticide-free produce. This massively increases fruit and vegetable consumption, especially in food deserts or low-income areas where healthy options are scarce. That's a direct bypass for food insecurity.
Straight from the garden to the table.
Yep. And beyond that, they're amazing educational spaces, outdoor classrooms, really, teaching kids and adults about sustainability, nutrition, ecology, teamwork.
Practical skills?
Skills for life. It bypasses gaps in formal education, offering practical hands-on learning. Fourth, economic stimulation. Gardens can offer volunteer roles, sometimes paid jobs. They boost local farmers markets, community-supported agriculture shares. Studies even show they can increase nearby property values, another bypass around economic precarity.
Interesting, the property value angle.
It reflects the desirability of these green spaces. And finally, environmental stewardship. Urban gardens actually reduce air and soil pollution. They help cool cities down. They encourage biodiversity.
Have you ever felt just, well, completely swamped by the sheer scale of the world's problems?
Oh, absolutely.
Things like homelessness, addiction, environmental neglect, that nagging feeling that resources are always running out.
Yeah, it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
It can feel like these challenges are just too big for any one person or, even any one government to really solve.
Right, like they're just immutable facts of life.
Exactly. But what if? What if the very premise of some of these problems, like scarcity, is fundamentally flawed?
That's an interesting starting point.
And what if the solutions aren't these grand top-down mandates we often assume? But instead, they're found in, well, surprising places.
Surprising, like
Like a fantasy video game, maybe? Or even ancient historical societies. Sounds almost whimsical, I know, but I'm genuinely intrigued.
it's definitely a powerful question to ask, especially when that sense of helplessness starts to creep in. Our traditional understanding often does present these issues that way.
Limiting our perception of what's truly possible.
Precisely. But maybe we've been operating under some profound misconceptions.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yeah.
This deep dive is all about a fascinating new blueprint. It's called the Blueprint for Community-Led Resource Management, inspired by guild systems.
Okay.
It's a bold, really innovative vision for how communities, starting at the local level, can tackle these systemic issues.
How? By doing what?
By embracing collective agency, basically, transforming their own neighborhoods into sustainable, equitable hubs.
Okay, that sounds ambitious. What are we drawing on for this?
Well, our sources for this deep dive are truly unique and I think pretty compelling. We're pulling insights from a private chat group where this whole idea was first hammered out.
Right, the origin point.
And alongside that, inspiration from the adventurous guild system in Final Fantasy XIV, FFXIV.
The online game. Okay, that is surprising.
Millions of players, right?
Wow.
And yes, even historical models like the Bavarian Illuminati,
Seriously, the Illuminati.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
And also the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, from America's New Deal era.
Wow, okay. That's quite a mix of sources. FFXIV and the CCC.
It really is. So our mission today is to unpack this, to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from this proposal,
The goal being.
to help you, the listener, understand how this kind of grassroots leadership paradigm, integrating these diverse, inclusive trade, martial, and mystical guilds, could actually work in the real world.
Okay, a practical translation.
Exactly. Get ready for some potential aha moments that might just change how you see community leadership and maybe even your own community's potential.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
So let's get right into it, because the blueprint starts by tackling a really fundamental assumption, one many of us carry almost instinctively:
Which is?
the idea of scarcity. And we're constantly told there's just not enough for everyone. That infinite human wants inevitably clash with finite resources.
The classic economic problem statement.
Right. But the core idea here is that this false scarcity isn't a natural condition at all. It's more like a systemic artifact
An artifact of what?
of our socioeconomic organization,
Yeah.
deliberately created, the blueprint argues, for profit and control. That's a pretty bold claim, isn't it?
It absolutely is. That Malthusian logic, population outstripping resources, that's been deeply embedded in our economic and political thinking for centuries.
Yeah, it underpins so much.
It's this pervasive narrative that often justifies, well, competition, inequality, the way things are.
But
But when you really critically examine the empirical evidence, it strongly suggests abundance actually exists. The problem isn't a fundamental lack of stuff.
so what is it then?
It seems to be a deliberate artificial constraint on access to those resources, often by, a select few.
And you see this everywhere, right? Especially in the global north. Like, think about the US, for example.
Okay.
Production has massively increased over decades, way faster than population growth, but still. A huge portion of the population struggles for basic needs.
Right, things like housing, healthcare.
Exactly. We're talking vast consumer debt, people living paycheck to paycheck, structural unemployment. The blueprint argues these aren't results of genuine resource limits,
That of what?
of deliberate artificial shortages.
Yeah.
So, if Malthus was wrong, if we do technically have enough, why does it feel like we're constantly fighting over scraps?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What are the actual mechanisms creating this false scarcity?
Yeah.
Because the scarcity, or the feeling of it, extends globally. Poverty, malnutrition, underemployment. They persist even in regions where resources are technically plentiful.
Often because they're exported or controlled by external interests.
Precisely. It's not a natural outcome of resource limits. It's a consequence of policy choices, of economic structures that consistently prioritize profit and accumulation over, say, universal well-being.
Which then leads to limiting access.
Yes. Limiting access to essentials like housing, healthcare, food, all while justifying overwork or systematic underemployment as just, how the market works.
So the narrative of scarcity itself is a tool.
A powerful tool in this view. It serves to maintain a status quo that benefits a relative few, often at the expense of the many, by convincing the majority that their struggles are somehow inevitable, natural even.
Wow, okay, that's not just a reframe, it's a profound paradigm shift.
It really is.
Because if the scarcity we feel is manufactured, then our biggest challenge isn't production, is it?
No, it shifts the focus entirely.
It's distribution. It means the solutions aren't about chasing more, but about intelligently, equitably sharing what we already have.
Exactly. It completely changes how we might approach solving societal problems.
Okay, so if we can challenge that fundamental assumption about scarcity,
then it naturally leads us to question another long-held belief about shared resources.
which is,
The infamous tragedy of the commons.
right, I remember that from school. The idea that if everyone shares something, it inevitably gets ruined.
Exactly. For generations, we've been taught this theory that shared resources are inevitably overexploited because individuals, acting only in their own self-interest, will deplete them.
And it's used to argue for privatization, right, as the only way to manage resources responsibly.
Often, yes. But the blueprint, and it cites a lot of historical and anthropological research here, argues that this thesis has been largely, discredited.
Really? Discredited how?
What's truly fascinating is that communal resource management, when it's practiced through local self-regulation and systems of mutual accountability, it has actually allowed for centuries of sustainable shared land and resource usage.
So the tragedy isn't inherent to sharing?
Absolutely not, according to this research. Think about traditional indigenous communities around the world.
Okay.
Or even modern examples like community gardens or cooperative resource management models. They've often thrived for generations.
How do they manage it? What are the mechanisms?
Using sophisticated methods like stinting, which is carefully limiting, say, the number of animals grazing on common land, or establishing robust rule enforcement and social sanctions for those who break the communal agreements.
So self-governance.
Yes. The critical insight here is that the tragedy doesn't seem to occur from community self-management itself.
When does it happen now?
It happens when resource ownership shifts, when it goes to absentee owners or profit-driven entities, where short-term gains suddenly get prioritized over long-term communal survival and well-being.
So it's privatization and that external profit-maximizing behavior, not the act of sharing itself, that often leads to the depletion.
That's the argument. It flips the script on the tragedy.
Yeah, that's a crucial aha moment for me. Seriously.
Yeah.
Because if communal management can work, and if scarcity is often artificial, then we suddenly have a solid, empirically backed foundation for collective action.
It changes the narrative entirely.
From one of inevitable failure to one of, wow, profound potential success. It totally reorients your perspective.
Indeed. And if these problems aren't inevitable due to scarcity or some flaw in human nature,
then it raises the big question. Where does the power for real, lasting societal change truly lie? Who's best positioned to actually make it happen?
And the blueprint offers a very clear, quite resounding answer to that.
Which is?
That effective, enduring societal change fundamentally emerges from the grassroots.
Not from the top down.
No, not from elite-led reform. It's about actionable civic agency, where individuals and groups organize locally to address shared challenges, informed directly by their own experiences, their insights, their unique community context.
That makes intuitive sense.
And what's fascinating is that the evidence suggests community-led initiatives consistently outperform top-down interventions.
In what ways?
In terms of participation, adaptability, and sustained impact. When people have a direct stake, when they feel genuine ownership, when they see their efforts directly reflected in their daily lives.
They invest more deeply.
Training, nurturing individuals and organizations from within.
Cultivating leaders continuously.
Right. Building that capacity intentionally over time. Second is a triple focus approach.
Triple focus.
Yeah. For successful, sustainable change, you need to develop three things in tandem. The individual leader themselves, the organization they're part of, and the broader community context.
So it's holistic. Individual, group, environment.
Precisely. Recognizing that none of those elements exist in isolation. Real transformation needs simultaneous growth across all three.
Okay, makes sense. And the third?
And finally, participatory decision making. This one is absolutely paramount.
Why paramount?
Because grassroots strategies must prioritize collective problem solving, mutual respect, and truly democratic engagement. It's not about someone at the top deciding what's best for everyone else.
It's about everyone having a voice.
A voice, a role, and a shared responsibility in shaping their collective future. That's where the real power and sustainability lie.
And we see this working in practice.
We do. There are concrete examples all around us proving it works. Think about school community partnerships working together on school safety.
Okay.
Or organizations like Nashville's Thistle Farms or Project Return. They support marginalized populations by empowering them within their own recovery and reintegration processes. It's led by those with lived experience.
Right. And you mentioned Built for Zero.
Yes. The Built for Zero movements. They're dramatically reducing homelessness in communities because they put local data ownership and strategy development directly into communal hands. They own the problem and the solution.
These aren't just isolated feel-good stories then.
Not at all. They're compelling proof of concept for the power of grassroots action. It really can work.
Okay, let's unpack this further. If grassroots is the engine of change, how do we give it a framework? Something robust enough to maybe scale, but also agile enough to adapt to different community needs.
That's a challenge, right? Structure versus flexibility.
And the blueprint suggests a surprisingly agile model borrowed from Final Fantasy IV-F's Adventurers Guild.
That's the one.
I have to admit, as someone who's maybe spent a few hours in that virtual world, the idea of translating that to real-world community building, it initially sounded a bit, well, far-fetched. What makes it so relevant?
It sounds fantastical, I agree, but its underlying organizational philosophy is remarkably practical.
How so?
The Adventurers Guild and FFXIV offers a flexible, democratic, and really quite relevant approach to community organization. Its emphasis is on outsider or freelance contributors.
Freelancers.
Yeah, fostering this evolving system of autonomy, skills development, and mutual aid. It uniquely blends functional specialization with universal inclusion.
Which, as we've discussed, is critical for real-world communities.
Absolutely. It forces us to rethink what a community structure can even look like. It doesn't have to be rigid.
So, how does this game mechanic actually translate? The blueprint highlights several key aspects.
Right. Aspects of the FFXIV guild structure and philosophy that seem transferable. First, it acts as a brokerage.
A broker.
Yeah, the guild itself doesn't perform the tasks directly. It functions more like a sophisticated intermediary. It matches needs quests in the game with member skills and interests.
Like a matching service for community needs and skills.
Exactly. Crucial for efficient resource allocation and figuring out what the community actually needs, then finding the right people for it.
Okay, where else?
Second, there's democratic growth. Rank advancement within the guild. It's merit-based, tied directly to contribution and effort, not some inherited status or arbitrary power.
So you earn your place.
Right. And critically, mentoring is deeply built into the system. Newcomers learn from experienced members, veterans share their knowledge.
Ensuring skills develop and leaders emerge naturally.
Exactly. It's like a self-perpetuating learning ecosystem.
That sounds powerful. What about membership?
It has truly open membership. Participation is explicitly not restricted by affiliation, background, or prior experience. It welcomes diverse backgrounds and experience levels.
Which is huge for real-world community building, where inclusivity is often talked about, but hard to achieve.
Right. It avoids the kind of gatekeeping that can just stifle so many initiatives before they even start.
Okay, brokerage, democratic growth, open membership. What's the last key aspect?
Finally, and this is where it gets really interesting for thinking about societal structure, the non-hierarchical, skill-based role.
Non-hierarchical.
Yeah. Non-combatants in the game, think traders, craftspeople, service providers, they're given equal organizational status and respect alongside the combatants, the fighters.
So crafting is as important as fighting.
Essentially, yes. It highlights the value of diverse contributions. It recognizes that every skill, whether it's growing food, providing emotional support, building infrastructure, is equally vital to a thriving, resilient community.
That's quite radical compared to how we often value work in the real world.
It is. The power of this guild system isn't just organizing tasks, it's about explicitly valuing every contribution as equally vital. Mending clothes, nurturing mental well-being, it all matters.
So this seemingly fantastical model, It actually offers a practical, adaptable framework for real-world community building.
It's not just about a game, it suggests a potentially new, more equitable and efficient way to organize human effort and resources.
Okay, so what does this all mean for real-world application? How do these guilds actually function in our neighborhoods, moving beyond the digital realm into our physical communities?
Right, putting these principles to work on the ground.
The blueprint offers a fascinating translation of these FFXIV archetypes. It explains that the game's subdivision into trade, martial, and mystical guilds. Well, it offers distinct archetypes that can be directly applied to persistent social needs in the real world.
And it's really important to clarify here, the distinction isn't about promoting militarism or, actual mysticism or esotericism.
Right, not literal guilds of warriors and wizards.
No. It's more about tailored engagement with specific domains. The Trade Guild is there to directly counter that false scarcity by fostering local productivity and resource circulation.
Okay, the Martial Guild.
That focuses on safety, justice, and community-led protection, self-determination and security.
And the Mystical Guild.
That cultivates social cohesion, meaning mental well-being.
Right.
It provides that essential invisible glue that holds a community together.
Okay, each has a distinct but crucial role. Let's break them down. Start with the Trade Guild.
Okay, the Trade Guild. In the real world, its analogs are things we might already recognize. Local cooperatives, dynamic barter and skills exchanges, invaluable tool libraries.
Things that facilitate sharing and local production.
Exactly. Its primary function is robust resource generation, efficient sharing, equitable distribution, and facilitating trades within the community, fostering a localized circular economy.
And the benefits.
The key community benefits seem pretty clear and immediate. Significant economic enrichment for members, greater inclusion by lowering barriers to access resources, and building these robust mutual support networks.
So it directly counters that artificial scarcity idea.
Right, by actively fostering local productivity and resource circulation, creating genuine abundance within the community itself.
What kind of roles and activities would you see in a trade guild?
Think about growers cultivating shared community gardens, skilled builders and repairers maintaining local infrastructure or fixing broken items instead of just throwing them away, educators running practical workshops.
So establishing shared gardens like we see already?
Yes, or managing extensive tool libraries where people can borrow what they need. Hosting public workshops, learn to fix your bike, basic carpentry, coding, and organizing upcycling events to reduce waste and maximize resource use.
Concrete, tangible activities building local abundance.
From the ground up.
Okay, moving on to the Martial Guild. What does that look like?
So the Martial Guild, its real-world analogs would be things like community safety teams, vigilant neighborhood watches, proactive disaster response initiatives.
Things focused on safety and readiness.
Exactly. Primary functions revolve around enhancing public safety, providing civic protection, ensuring emergency readiness at the local level.
And the key benefit here is
Cultivating profound social trust and collective security. Fundamentally shifting away from purely external, top-down security models and putting that power, that responsibility back into the community's hands.
what kind of roles would be involved?
You'd find roles like safety stewards, maybe trained mediators, rapid crisis response teams.
Doing what?
They'd be engaged in things like proactive foot patrols, just being a visible, helpful presence. Implementing restorative justice practices.
Which is about repairing harm, not just punishment.
Exactly. Repairing harm, rebuilding relationships. Also providing widespread first aid training for the whole community. Offering mediation services to resolve conflicts peacefully.
Are there real-world examples of this?
Sure. Think about existing community policing initiatives that really prioritize de-escalation, explicitly non-carceral models, or those powerful mutual aid groups that consistently step up during crises like natural disasters or power outages.
Is communities taking ownership of their own safety and well-being?
Precisely. Collective ownership.
Okay, and then the third one, the Mystical Guild.
Right, the Mystical Guild. Its analogs are maybe spiritual or cultural organizations, profound healing circles, innovative community creatives, dedicated educators.
Focus more on the social and emotional fabric.
Exactly. Its primary functions are in facilitating meaningful rituals, providing deep mediation and conflict resolution, and serving as a hub for wisdom sharing and intergenerational learning.
What's the main goal?
This guild is singularly focused on fostering profound social cohesion, shared meaning, and enduring resilience within the community.
This is really where that invisible glue idea
Yeah.
comes in, isn't it?
Absolutely. The roles here would include healers supporting mental and emotional well-being, mentors guiding individuals through challenges, ritual facilitators creating those shared experiences that bind people together, artists enriching community life,
What kind of activities?
organizing mental health support circles, vibrant creative events like festivals or art shows, deeper, more transformative mediation sessions for conflicts, maybe even rites of passage for various life stages, marking transitions, strengthening identity.
Examples.
Think about existing art collectives, robust peer support networks for various challenges, or even what some people call urban shamans.
Urban shamans.
Yeah, individuals who naturally create shared meaning and healing spaces, often without formal titles. They just sort of hold that space for the community. It's about cultivating the soul of the community.
Wow. Okay.
Exactly. This guild provides that essential emotional and cultural infrastructure. It sustains the cooperation and shared stewardship. It's not just about tasks, it's about shared human connection, purpose, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are together.
So these three guilds, trade, martial, mystical, they're archetypes.
Yeah.
And you're saying, while the framing is new, the ideas have deep roots.
Very deep roots. History offers powerful proof that structured, community-focused organizations built on similar principles can achieve incredible things.
Okay, like what you mentioned the Illuminati earlier.
That's right. The blueprint delves into the Bavarian Illuminati, but not through the lens of myths and conspiracy theories.
Right, setting aside the Dan Brown stuff.
Exactly. Looking at it as a structured organization that actually advocated for Enlightenment values, reason, systemic reform. It offers key organizational principles that are surprisingly relevant for modern adaptation.
If you strip away the secrecy and, well, the mystique.
Precisely.
So what can we genuinely learn from them for building transparent, community-led systems today?
Well, first, despite being organized in degrees and classes, which sounds very hierarchical, right?
Yeah, very top-down.
The Illuminati actually placed immense value on virtue, mutual support, and the shared collaborative cultivation of knowledge among its members. It's a fascinating example of a structured hierarchy with horizontal values.
Interesting. What else?
They also had a clear community focus. Enlightenment and self-improvement weren't just individual pursuits, they were seen as collective obligations. It was about elevating society as a whole.
And you mentioned mutual aid.
Yes, their emphasis on universalism and mutual aid is striking. The order aimed to unite members from disparate backgrounds toward common goals. That echoes values of inclusivity and radical reciprocity that are highly relevant for modern grassroots systems trying to bridge divides.
Any other takeaways?
And they practiced a rigorous form of reflective practice. They used a system of diaries, detailed accountability reports between members, and mutual mentorship.
Like feedback loops.
Strikingly analogous to modern feedback loops and continuous improvement processes you find in any high-performing organization or community today. They were serious about learning and improving.
Okay, but there's a big caveat here.
A crucial caveat, yes,
Yeah.
and the blueprint is very clear on this. While the organizational principles, structure, mutual support, reflection are valuable.
The secrecy isn't.
Right. The esotericism and rigid secrecy they became famous for are absolutely not suitable for open source community models that depend on trust and transparency.
So carry forward to the structure maybe, but embrace openness.
Exactly. Transparency, shared learning, global interconnectedness, those are the values to carry forward. It just shows how even an organization steeped in mystery can offer practical lessons if you look carefully.
Okay, Illuminati lessons learned. What about the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps?
Ah, the
Yeah.
CCC. For lessons on scale and impact, the blueprint points squarely there. This was one of history's most ambitious and successful grassroots mobilization workforces in public service.
This was during the Great Depression.
Yes, from 1933 to 1942. Millions of young Americans found meaningful employment, stable food and shelter, and invaluable education,
While doing what?
while undertaking critical infrastructure and conservation projects all across the country. Planting trees, building parks, fighting soil erosion. It was a monumental effort.
What made it work so effectively?
Well, first, it was a direct response to societal crisis. It didn't just create jobs randomly.
Yeah.
It strategically harnessed wasted resources, unemployed youth, and underutilized land to rebuild communities and restore ecological health when both were desperately needed.
Addressing human and environmental needs together.
Simultaneously. Second, It used a federated organizational model. The CCC was remarkably decentralized.
How so?
It engaged federal, state, and local entities in its operations. That ensured it was responsive to incredibly diverse local contexts and needs across the country. A key lesson for any large-scale grassroots movement today.
Makes sense. What else?
It also had a strong embedded education and training component. It wasn't just about manual labor.
They learned skills.
Yes. The CCC nurtured practical skills, improved literacy rates significantly, and fostered real personal growth for participants, many of whom came from disadvantaged backgrounds. They learned trades, built character, gained a sense of purpose,
And it left a legacy.
an enduring community legacy. The CCC camps became sites not just of work, but of profound social bonding, leadership development, citizenship education. They literally built social capital alongside the physical infrastructure, the parks, roads, bridges we still use today.
So what are the adaptations for today? What can we pull from the CCC?
The blueprint identifies several highly relevant ones. First, the idea of purpose-driven labor as renewal, linking today's surplus labor, maybe underemployed youth, or people seeking new purpose after career changes and untapped local resources like vacant lots or neglected green spaces to shared local transformation, just like the CCC did.
Using work to rebuild communities and people.
Exactly. Second, insights into building inclusive on-ramps. The CCC's best iterations over time learned to welcome and empower marginalized groups, including veterans and eventually communities of color.
Although we have to acknowledge the flaws there, right? The initial segregation.
Absolutely. It's crucial to acknowledge the original era flaws, particularly around race, while still learning from its structural successes and its evolution towards greater inclusivity.
Okay. And the last CCC lesson.
An embedded education component is vital, combining practical skills training, leadership development, and direct community improvement work as one integrated process, learning by doing for the community's benefit.
So, connecting this back, these historical examples, the Illuminati structure, the CCC's scale and impact, they demonstrate the power of structured, purpose-driven collective action.
They prove that large-scale change can happen from the ground up, with the right framework and motivation.
Okay, so now let's see how these principles, this guild structure, translate into really actionable solutions for some of our biggest challenges today. Right here, right now.
Let's bring it down to the neighborhood level.
Exactly. Let's talk about food security. Community gardens seem like a perfect example of the trade guild in action.
They really are. The blueprint presents them as powerful, multifaceted solutions that go way beyond just growing vegetables. They directly link to the trade guild's functions, creating local abundance, sharing resources.
And there's evidence they work.
Oh, yes. Systematic reviews of community gardens consistently document significant improvements in nutrition, physical health, and psychosocial outcomes for participants.
So mind and body benefits.
And beyond the individual, they also positively affect overall community sentiment and social cohesion. They foster a sense of belonging, shared purpose. It's not just what you harvest from the soil, it's the human connection you cultivate.
What makes a community garden successful, though?
Key success factors include bottom-up design. Gardens are most sustainable and impactful when they're designed by and for their specific communities, reflecting local needs, cultures, desires.
Not just imposed from outside.
Right. They also require robust partnerships with city officials for land access, maybe university extension agencies for expertise, local nonprofits for support. Collaboration is key.
And the benefits go beyond just food.
Hugely. Think youth education programs, vibrant cultural exchange between different groups, gardening side by side, environmental stewardship, even therapeutic activity for mental well-being. It's a hub.
What about the challenges? Don't they face obstacles?
Of course.
Yeah.
Common obstacles include accessing settable land, especially in dense urban areas.
Solution?
Creative solutions include public-private partnerships, finding ways to revitalize vacant lots, or even innovative vertical and container gardening approaches. Funding constraints are another hurdle.
How do you overcome that?
Through things like in-kind donations of tools and seeds, applying for targeted grants, organizing engaging community fundraising events like harvest festivals, lack of gardening experience among new participants.
Yeah, what about that?
That's addressed by peer learning programs, hands-on workshops right in the garden, and mentorship from more experienced gardeners, and concerns about theft or vandalism.
How do you handle that?
That tends to be mitigated by having an embedded Community presence, when people feel ownership, they protect it. Active participation and proactive outreach to the surrounding neighborhood foster that sense of collective ownership.
So it seems community gardens really do generate these win-win outcomes.
Especially when diverse participation and leadership are encouraged, and when they're viewed not in isolation but as part of a broader local resource ecosystem.
And the steps to start one are pretty clear.
Yeah, the blueprint outlines them. Develop a vision and build a coalition. Acquire land and funding, design, build, plant, establish operating guidelines, and then continuously evaluate and scale based on community feedback. It's a practical process.
Okay, from food to shelter,
Right.
let's turn to homelessness. Often framed as this intractable, unsolvable crisis.
Right, but the blueprint challenges that narrative head on. It highlights these data-driven, community-owned strategies that are completely upending the belief that it can't be solved.
Like the Built for Zero movement you mentioned.
Exactly. Built for Zero is a prime example of this paradigm shift. It demonstrates that functional zero homelessness, where homelessness is rare overall and brief when it occurs, is not only achievable but has been achieved in numerous communities across the country.
How? What's the mechanism?
It happens when communities commit to actively naming and tracking every person experiencing homelessness. That's the by name data. Then they coordinate services across all providers seamlessly and set concrete, ambitious reduction goals
So it shifts from just managing the problem.
to strategically ending it. A fundamental shift in mindset and approach.
What are the key strategies for this community-led impact?
Number one is real-time, transparent data shared across all stakeholders. This drives accountability, responsiveness, and makes sure resources go where they're actually needed most.
Data-driving action.
Exactly. Second is collaborative action. Intense cross-sector partnerships, service providers, city officials, faith groups, grassroots organizations working together to reduce duplication and close those frustrating gaps in services.
Getting everyone on the same page.
Yes. Third, peer engagement is vital. Formerly unhoused individuals must play essential roles in designing and delivering interventions, leveraging their invaluable lived experience. Nothing about us without us.
Makes sense. And lastly,
Policy advocacy. Organized community pressure can effectively direct public resources more efficiently towards proven solutions, like permanent supportive housing, and promote structural reforms, maybe zoning changes or increased housing subsidies.
and this links to the guild model, how?
This directly connects to the Marshall Guild's focus on collective security and direct action for a fundamental human right, housing stability. It's the community ensuring everyone has a safe place.
Okay, what about addiction recovery? Another huge challenge.
Huge. And the blueprint emphasizes that overcoming addiction often requires much more than just standard medical treatment. It highlights the profound success of peer-based community resource centers.
RCCs, Recovery Community Centers.
Exactly. RCCs succeed because they mobilize social capital. They foster leadership development among those in recovery. They offer practical job training, engage in advocacy for better policies, and provide crucial family support.
And the key is that it's peer-led.
All crucially led by those in recovery themselves. This creates these self-sustaining systems where the gap, the stigma between those struggling and those offering support is minimized. Accessibility increases dramatically.
So it's building that web of human connection.
Yes. The underlying logic is identical to what a Mistral Guild envisions. Robust support networks, holistic care addressing mind, body, spirit, and democratic collective healing processes. It's not just isolated medical interventions, it's community healing community.
Okay, one more major challenge. Waste. Sustainable waste management.
Right. The blueprint frames this as a multifaceted systems challenge. It's environmental, it's infrastructural, it's cultural, and it shows that community-based strategies are consistently most effective.
When residents are directly involved.
When residents are directly involved in the design and the implementation. Ownership, again.
What kind of community strategies work here?
Things like encouraging household-level sorting and segregation of waste, establishing convenient, accessible neighborhood composting hubs, launching creative reuse and upcycling initiatives, repair cafes, swap shops.
Education, too.
Definitely. Public education and skill-building workshops on waste reduction, composting, repairing things. Also, public-private partnerships can be essential for securing funding and optimizing logistics for collection or processing. And leveraging technology, maybe smart sorting bins or collection apps to streamline the process.
Are there examples of this working well?
Yeah, the blueprint cites case studies like successful waste management initiatives in Duchong, Vietnam. They show that training and equipping local champions to lead these efforts produces sustainable, long-term results.
And this fits the guild model.
Perfectly aligns with a trade guild stewardship model, promoting local responsibility and maximizing the value of resources rather than just discarding them.
Okay, it's fascinating.
Right.
All these solutions, from gardens to recovery centers to waste reduction, they all share that common thread: community empowerment.
Exactly. The power resides locally.
But how do these grassroots initiatives achieve scale? How do they maintain viability long term, especially in our digital age?
That's where the digital backbone comes in. This is crucial.
So-
The blueprint emphasizes that sustaining these community initiatives without becoming dependent on large, hierarchical, potentially bureaucratic organizations. Well, it's now greatly enabled by open source digital tools.
Tools specifically for NGOs and grassroots groups.
Yes. This is the open source ethos applied directly to community management. It allows local groups to potentially have global reach and impact, sharing what works.
What are the benefits of using open source software, OSS here?
They're significant. OSS offers free or very low-cost adaptable suites of tools for collaboration, real-time communication, robust project management, efficient member tracking, shared resource management, extensive knowledge sharing.
All back-end stuff you need to run something effectively.
Exactly. And crucially, adopting OSS democratizes access to these professional-grade tools. It keeps operating costs minimal, which is huge for grassroots groups, and it promotes the radical transparency that's absolutely vital for building and maintaining trust within a community.
So a small local group can operate with the sophistication of a large corporation.
Potentially, yes, but with far greater agility, transparency, and direct accountability to their community. It really levels the playing field for grassroots action.
What kind of tools are we talking about? Can you give examples?
Sure, we're talking about powerful, often quite mature tools. For example, Nextcloud for file storage and collaboration. And it's not just like a Dropbox alternative. The key is empowering communities to own and control their own data rather than relying on corporate servers.
Data sovereignty for communities.
Precisely. For real-time communication, things like Mattermost or Jitsi offer secure, private channels, keep sensitive community discussions internal and protected.
Project management.
Open Project is a great example. It helps everyone see the full picture of tasks, progress, responsibilities, fosters transparency and accountability, which is critical for distributed teams often working on volunteer time.
Managing members or donors?
CiviCRM is a widely used open source tool for that. Helps communities effectively organize their supporters, track engagement, manage fundraising if needed.
What about outreach and education?
For creating content, OBS Studio is fantastic, free, powerful software for recording and live streaming educational videos, making knowledge accessible to everyone. And for events, maybe Predix for ticketing and management, simplifying community gatherings.
And big organizations use these too.
Absolutely. Organizations like Amnesty International, Greenpeace, they've successfully transitioned major operations using open source stacks. It proves these tools are robust and scalable enough for serious work.
So professional tools are genuinely accessible now.
They really are, empowering even small local groups to operate efficiently and transparently without huge budgets or getting locked into proprietary software contracts.
Okay, so the tools are there. How does the blueprint connect this back to governance, to ensuring accountability?
Building on that tech foundation, the blueprint connects the values of the Guild tradition, accountability, transparency, directly to best practices in modern nonprofit governance.
Designing organizations to be accountable from the start.
Exactly, making them inherently decentralized, accountable, and resilient by design.
How do you ensure that?
Well, things like voluntary certification systems, or VCS, and established codes of ethical principles in NGO management provide clear, actionable standards for good governance. They build legitimacy and trust.
What kind of standards are we talking about?
Foundational principles for long-term sustainability. Things like truly participatory decision-making processes, meticulous financial transparency, and open budgeting. Decentralized and rotating leadership roles to prevent power from consolidating in just a few hands.
Spreading the power around.
Yes. Inclusive and skills-based advancement opportunities for all members based on contribution, not just connections, and clear open feedback and conflict resolution processes to maintain harmony and allow the organization to adapt and learn.
These aren't just nice-to-haves, are they?
No, the blueprint argues these measures are a cornerstone. Absolutely essential for any resource sharing, mutual aid, or collaborative endeavor that aims for long-term sustainability and impact. They ensure power remains with the community and the organization stays true to its values as it grows.
Okay, so let's try to pull this all together. We have the guilds trade, martial, mystical. We have the open source tech backbone. We have principles of accountable governance. How does it all operate as a cohesive system for grassroots renewal in the real world?
Right, the synthesis. The blueprint describes this as an integrated guild architecture. Meaning a community guild system made up of these three interactive complementary guilds or councils, trade, martial, mystical, each addresses distinct community needs.
But they're not silos?
Crucially, no. They cross-pollinate constantly.
Right.
In membership, people might be involved in more than one. In leadership, maybe leaders rotate between councils. And in purpose, they support each other's goals. They're interconnected parts of a vibrant, living whole.
Can you paint a picture? How would they interact with the tech?
Okay, imagine the trade guild running the community garden, the tool library, the repair cafe. They might use Open Project for task management, maybe CiviCRM for tracking volunteer hours or managing a seed bank inventory.
The martial guild.
Involved in neighborhood foot patrols, disaster response planning, facilitating restorative justice circles. They'd rely heavily on tools like Mattermost or Jitsi for secure, instant communication and coordination, especially during an event.
And the mystical guild.
Focusing on mental health support groups, organizing cultural festivals, running wisdom workshops. They might use OBS Studio to record and share workshops or guided meditations, maybe use Matomo, an open source analytics tool, to gather anonymous feedback on the well-being initiatives.
And how is the whole thing managed? Legally? Organizationally?
The blueprint suggests it would likely be managed as an open source nonprofit, or perhaps a commons trust structure,
What does that entail?
emphasizing regular public reporting on activities and finances, truly distributed leadership across the guilds, transparent financial management. The goal is ensuring the community genuinely owns and benefits from the resources generated, not some external entity or small group within.
Okay, and this isn't just theory, right? You mentioned resource flow.
Right. It's designed as a tangible blueprint for action, showing how local ideas can have real impact through a dynamic flow of resources, like blood through the community's veins.
Can you give some specific examples of that flow?
Sure. Let's take land as an entry point. Maybe the city or a local NGO partners with the community, offering a vacant lot.
Guild involved?
Trade guild, primarily. Gardeners, builders. They transform it. The outcome? Abundant fresh food, maybe a beautiful community gathering space. Increased biodiversity.
Okay, what about tools?
Entry path. Donations from residents, maybe a partnership with a local tool bank.
Right.
Guild involved. Trade guild again. Outcome. An accessible lending library for DIY projects, maybe skill building classes, teaching people how to use the tool safely.
Knowledge.
Entry, workshops, public lectures, skill sharing events. Guilds involved. Could be all three, as both learners and teachers. Outcome. Increased civic education, shared practical skills circulating, deeper collective understanding of issues.
Safety and protection.
Entry. Neighbors organizing a watch group, maybe self-defense or first aid training. Guild involved. Martial guild. Outcome. Reduced crime rates, definitely increased community resilience during emergencies, a tangible sense of security for residents.
Ritual and culture.
Entry. Planning a seasonal festival, a community art project, a storytelling night. Guild involved, primarily the mystical guild. Outcome. Enhanced well-being, reinforcement of shared values, stronger collective identity.
Even compost and waste.
Entry. Setting up community collection points, guilds involved. Could be trade for processing the compost, maybe martial for logistics or site safety. Outcome, nutrient-rich soil amendment for the gardens, significant reduction in landfill waste, win-win.
And funding.
Entry, small donations, community grants, local fundraising events. Management, handled centrally, transparently perhaps, with the trade guild supporting micro-grants for individual members or small group initiatives within the system.
Okay, that paints a clear picture of the flow. What about starting this? How does a community actually launch something like this?
The blueprint outlines practical, actionable implementation steps. A roadmap, essentially.
Step 1.
You start with an assessment. That means thoroughly mapping your community's existing assets, skills, spaces, organizations, gathering extensive community input through forums, surveys, evaluating the community's readiness for this kind of collaborative project.
Really listening first.
Absolutely. Then you form a coalition, recruit passionate founding members, establish provisional councils for each guild, maybe just a few key people initially, leverage digital tools like Jitsi or Discord for early communication and planning.
Then what? Dive right in.
Pilot a project. Start with one core, tangible activity, something visible and achievable. Maybe the community garden, or a small neighborhood patrol, or one peer support group.
And document everything.
Crucially, yes, full documentation of the process, what worked, what didn't. Using simple tools for volunteer signups, project tracking like Open Project. This leads directly to the next step. Systematic documentation.
Creating the playbook.
Exactly. Creating open standard protocols, how-to guides, public information repositories, using tools like Nextcloud or shared online documents, so others can easily learn, replicate, and adapt the model. Make it shareable from day one.
Then it's about improving.
Continuous iteration. Gathering ongoing feedback through surveys, open meetings, adapting policies and procedures based on what's working and what isn't. Expanding participation organically as interests and capacity grow, learn and adjust constantly.
And finally, to scale.
Federate. Share your successful playbooks, your compelling case studies with other neighborhoods, other towns. Actively support them, mentor them to adopt and adapt the model for their own context. Build a network of communities.
This really emphasizes the role of digital platforms, doesn't it? For education, for scaling.
Absolutely essential. They act like the nervous system for the entire movement. Platforms like Notebook LM, for instance, are highlighted as critical for the research and content consolidation phase.
How does Notebook LM help specifically?
It streamlines the whole process of dealing with diverse source materials. Think about pulling together insights from those initial chat transcripts, academic articles supporting the concepts, audio recordings from community meetings, planning documents.
It helps make sense of it all.
Exactly. You can upload everything, annotate it, then use intuitive prompts to instantly generate structured literature reviews, tables comparing different approaches, even comprehensive project action plans based on your sources.
And for outreach. Like for us.
Crucially for outreach, yes. It can quickly help create engaging educational content, even podcast-ready scripts like this one, making complex ideas much more accessible for public dissemination. Synthesizing and sharing knowledge becomes much faster.
So the workflow is basically upload sources, prompt for summaries or blueprints, maybe generate a script draft, then share the outputs.
Pretty much. Upload files, use targeted prompts, engage the platform for drafts, refine, and then share those outputs maybe via platforms like YouTube, always ensuring robust referencing back to the sources to build trust and authority.
Okay, speaking of YouTube, how does that fit into scaling this?
Video and live streaming platforms like YouTube extend the reach dramatically. Think about it. You can create episodic how-to series, documenting project launches, celebrating successes, even troubleshooting common challenges transparently in real time.
Sharing the journey.
Yes. Conduct engaging interviews with local leaders, passionate participants, subject matter experts let people tell their own stories. Create clear explainer videos on the guild structure, the implementation steps, the historical lessons we talked about.
Make it easy to understand.
And interactive live streams are incredibly powerful too. For Q&A sessions, collaborative problem solving with the community, network building between different neighborhood groups.
What are the best practices for using video effectively here?
Use concise, engaging storytelling and compelling visuals show, don't just tell. Integrate those Notebook LM summaries maybe for quick script generation or key takeaways. And always, always ensure videos are cited and linked back to the core blueprint materials, the documentation, to build credibility and allow people to dig deeper.
So let's trace that process flow again. How does local action link to digital dissemination for replication?
Okay, at the conception phase, you hold community meetings for input, get ideas, you record snippets or maybe a summary video for YouTube explaining the initial vision publicly.
Okay, planning phase.
Resource mapping, asset mapping, assigning leadership roles. You share the resulting toolkit or plan via Notebook LM, making it easy for others to access and adapt.
Implementation.
Launch the pilot project, the garden, the patrol. You stream day-in-the-life YouTube episodes, showing the actual work, the challenges, the small wins. Bring it to life for a wider audience.
Evaluation.
Gather feedback through surveys, hold feedback sessions, aggregate the data and lessons learned using Notebook LM, then discuss them openly in a live stream Q&A. Total transparency, continuous improvement loop.
And expansion.
Start mentoring neighboring communities that show interest. Publish your refined open source playbooks and maybe even start a podcast sharing experiences across the network. Enable widespread adoption and adaptation.
Okay, this sounds incredibly promising. Like a genuine, practical path forward for communities.
It offers a very detailed vision.
But, and there's always a but, isn't there? Any big change, especially one that involves shifting power and resources, it's going to face resistance. Dragons to slay, as they say.
Absolutely. The blueprint doesn't shy away from that. It acknowledges that communities attempting this kind of grassroots renewal will often face significant resistance.
It's not presented as utopian then.
Not at all. It's a pragmatic vision that anticipates and plans for the obstacles.
What kind of obstacles? Where does the resistance usually come from?
The blueprint identifies common yet formidable sources. Things like entrenched property interests who benefit from the current way things are, burdensome regulatory bottlenecks that stifle innovation or make simple things incredibly complex.
Bureaucracy.
Yes. Underfunded local governments that might lack the resources or the political will to support new, unproven models. And just a general skepticism about change or collective action. People are often naturally hesitant, especially if it challenges existing power structures or requires a real shift in mindset.
So how does the blueprint suggest communities counter these challenges?
It outlines essential multi-pronged strategies. First and foremost, community engagement. Early, deep, and ongoing involvement of all stakeholders, coupled with transparent, consistent communication. This is absolutely crucial for building genuine buy-in, especially when dealing with contentious issues like land use or resource allocation.
Building trust from the start.
Without that foundation, you're building on shaky ground, vulnerable to opposition. Second is equitable participation. Meaning ensuring leadership opportunities and access to the benefits and resources are widely available, extending far beyond the traditional power holders or the usual suspects in established community groups. This prevents the new system from just replicating old inequalities and fosters that widespread sense of ownership.
Makes sense. And the third strategy?
Policy navigation. This is about getting savvy. The blueprint suggests learning from established policy, systems, and environment PSE change models.
What do those models emphasize?
They emphasize things like multi-sectoral collaboration building alliances, identifying strategic allies, maybe sympathetic officials or other organizations, using ongoing evaluation and data to make your case, and being willing to adapt your strategy based on evidence and feedback. It's about working creatively with, and sometimes strategically around, existing structures to achieve systemic change.
So understanding the challenges and having clear strategies is key to resilience.
Absolutely fundamental. You have to anticipate the pushback.
Okay. This leads us to the final and maybe the most profound aspect of the blueprint.
The invisible glue.
Exactly. The power of ritual and shared meaning. This is flagged as a core function of the Mystical Guild, but it really permeates the entire community system, doesn't it?
It has to. It shifts the focus to the profound importance of social cohesion, mental health, collective resilience, emphasizing how these are actively fostered through participatory ritual, creative collective action, social synchrony, the shared rhythms of community life.
Is there science behind this? Or is it just feel-good stuff?
Oh, there's modern research that actually confirms this. Studies show that rituals, whether they're high-frequency, low-arousal activities like regular community meetings or shared meals.
Yeah, everyday stuff.
Right. Or low-frequency, high-arousal events like vibrant seasonal festivals or maybe solemn ceremonies after a crisis. They profoundly strengthen social bonds. They catalyze pro-social cohesive action. They provide a vital rhythm and shared emotional experience that transcends just completing tasks. It embeds meaning into daily life.
So how would the Mystical Guild integrate these practices?
Through things like community-level rites, planning and facilitating those seasonal festivals, celebrating the turning of the year, maybe developing conflict resolution rituals that focus on repairing relationships, creating memorials that honor collective memory, or even designing simple new member initiations that formally welcome people into the shared purpose.
Using symbols, too.
Yes, strategically using communication tools like community symbols, shared narratives or stories, maybe even reviving local myths or traditions to express shared values and reinforce a strong, positive collective identity. Who are we in this place?
In cultural production.
Critically important. Fostering robust cultural production, active art events, collaborative creative projects like community murals or theater, powerful storytelling sessions that reinforce local identity, share wisdom across generations, and create that shared meaning within the community.
So these practices, they really are the invisible glue.
The blueprint argues they are. The glue that truly sustains a system of cooperation and shared stewardship over the long haul. They provide the vital emotional and cultural infrastructure alongside the practical and logistical frameworks of the trade and martial guilds. It's about feeding the soul of the community, not just its body.
Wow. This blueprint, blending the practical action, the tech savvy, with this deep human connection and historical wisdom. It offers a really compelling vision for the future.
It's certainly comprehensive.
So what does this all mean as we wrap up? We've taken a really deep dive into this comprehensive, historically rooted, and practically actionable blueprint for grassroots, guild-based community leadership.
We really have.
It charts a clear path, doesn't it? From the initial vision to tangible impact, showing how communities might address huge structural challenges like manufactured scarcity, sustainability, social fragmentation.
Right, by building from the ground up.
Right. It's that powerful fusion. Trade, martial, and mystical guilds working together symbiotically within a transparent, open-source, nonprofit resource system. That feels like the core innovation here.
Applied directly to real-world problems, using models inspired by some unexpected places.
And the enduring strength of this model, it seems, comes not just from a clever strategy or a robust structure.
No, it's deeper than that.
It comes from deeply lived communal values, mutual aid, truly participatory governance, diligent stewardship of shared resources, and that constant cycle of creative renewal.
It's a culture of empowerment and collective care, ideally.
And we saw how powerful digital tools, everything from Notebook LM for organization and knowledge management to YouTube for widespread educational outreach, how they can amplify this impact.
Turning what started as a local conversation, literally in a private chat group, into a potentially replicable, maybe even global movement for community renewal.
The time feels ripe for this kind of transformation, doesn't it?
It really does. There's a hunger for different ways of organizing, I think.
So the final provocative thought for you, our listener. What if the solutions to our biggest challenges aren't actually found in grand, top-down schemes dictated from afar,
But where?
but in the collective wisdom and action of everyday people, empowered by clear frameworks, shared purpose, and genuine connection?
A shift in where we look for answers.
What role could you play in forging these new community bonds, maybe right where you live? Perhaps even inspired by a fictional world?